Hello and welcome to Connect with Chris, where we catch up with distinguished alumni from the School of Communications here at Quinnipiac University. Joining us today is Fahoum Fahoum, who's from the class of 2014. He's now a new business development executive at SeeClickPlus. Fahoum, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris.
So tell us about SeeClick. What is that and what do they do?
So SeeClickFix is a 311 platform that helps bridge the digital divide between citizens and their local government. We help make a way for citizens to be heard, staff and administrations to listen, local governments to take action and ultimately show results. If you ever noticed any quality of life issues around you, if it's fallen trees or potholes in town, we have an app that helps you get that resolution right away using our technology.
So this is cities and towns, is it counties?
Cities, towns, and counties, correct.
Okay. And how many customers does SeeClick have?
Right now, SeeClickFix has about 450 clients, local governments, both in the US and a few abroad, some in Canada and also overseas. So SeeClickFix right now is a product, a part of CivicPlus. SeeClickFix was born and founded in New Haven. Now we're a part of CivicPlus, a Kansas-based integrated technology company. Yep. Okay.
And Fahoum, tell me what you do for the company. What is your role as a new business development executive?
So I help build the initial touch with local governments across the U.S., start the conversation and see if we can help them improve their processes and raise citizen engagement. I play a part of our business growth apparatus, and I work mainly in the Northeast region.
Okay. So you're going out and meeting with towns and cities and counties, trying to get them interested in adapting this software?
Correct. And ever since COVID hit, of course, town halls were closed, and cities, counties, town halls were looking for a way to reach out to citizens and maintain the same level of services even during the pandemic. So certainly the interest has spiked during the last year and a half.
Yeah, I can imagine. Tell me, how did you get into this business?
Well, to be honest, I was first working in nonprofit development, which is similar function, only in the nonprofit sector. I wanted to learn how to develop and bring in revenue for a private sector company, but I wanted to still be engaged in social impact and civic engagement. So the perfect blend for me was SeeClickFix, where I joined first as a client success manager, maintaining and building the relationships with these towns and municipalities.
Okay. I've got to imagine that the recent storm that just came through, SeeClickFix saw a lot of people filing complaints or issues with towns and cities and counties.
Yes, absolutely, and it's a good way for towns and counties to crowdsource information. It's an easy way to enlist citizens in the effort to improve their lives and tackle issues a lot quicker. We saw the uptick, and it's definitely has helped towns and counties to both recover from disasters and also maintain a pretty good quality of life around.
Okay. Tell me about your career before SeeClickFix. What were you doing?
After Quinnipiac, I started working in nonprofit development at Columbia University as an assistant director of major gifts and corporate and foundation relations, working with corporations and other foundations to bring in support for scholarships, professorships in new buildings around campus. After that, I had a short stint at the UN working as a development intern there in the cluster on climate change and disaster risk reduction, building a bottom-up approach to climate policy making, raising awareness on disaster risk reduction. And after that, I came back to Connecticut still working in development only at Yale University.
Okay. That's a pretty broad career. I bet working at the UN was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. I didn't have a climate background. My graduate degree was in negotiation and conflict resolution, so definitely going to a new field and challenging myself felt very interesting, but the work itself is impactful, so definitely rewarding.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, Fahoum, my understanding is you also worked for a year for one of our instructors here at the School of Communication, Andrea Obston, in her communications firm up in Hartford.
Yes, AKA AO.
Yes.
AO was one of my favorite professors. I connected with her immediately when I first met her at a networking event on campus. I decided to take one of her classes. The class was on crisis communications, and her energy was, she was very engaging, and her energy was contagious. So that's exactly the type of environment that I learned best under. Turns out that Andrea, aka AO, has her own practice on marketing communication called Andrea Obston Marketing Communications, and she accepted interns. So I asked if I could intern at between my junior and senior year. I'm lucky that she took me in, taught me a lot about public relations, marketing communications, but also a lot about how to be a better person and professional. Post-graduation, when actually on my transition back to Connecticut, that was a little before starting at Yale, I came back to work for AO, and still to this very day, we're very closely in touch, and she's such a great professor and influence on my life.
Yeah, she's very popular with students. All right, we're going to take a break on Connect with Chris, and we'll be right back with Fahoum Fahoum. We are back on Connect with Chris with Fahoum Fahoum. He's a 2014 graduate in public relations. Fahoum, tell us the story about how you got to Quinnipiac. I know you transferred here from a university in Virginia. What made you decide to come to Quinnipiac?
Well, by the time I decided to transfer, my sister, it's just the two of us, she had moved to New York City. So I wanted to start looking at schools that would be close to her, but not so close that I still have my own space. And I started looking at, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey area, and stumbled upon Quinnipiac University. When I came to visit, honestly, that was the day I decided that I'll come here. I fell in love with campus. It felt very familiar. The trees around campus felt very much like the ones I have in my hometown. The hills, same with the hills, but more so when I came to visit and asked the coach, the tennis coach, for the address, he said the address is 275 Mount Carmel Avenue. And it surprised me because I live on Mount Carmel back home. So if I needed more signs that it was meant to be, this was the final one. Of course, there were others as well. When on my visit on the tour, I realized that back in my time, Quinnipiac had an average classroom size of 22 students, and that's the personal environment and touch that I thrive under. It was a no-brainer for me after that.
So you mentioned that you played tennis. How did you get into tennis?
Well, as a young kid, I was a curious one, just like any other kid. I tried every sport, judo, basketball, soccer, but ultimately fell in love with tennis. Started playing once a week, then twice a week. My sister and I were both in it. We immediately became addicted, started playing competitively, and the rest is history.
To put you on the spot here.
Sure.
Are you Nadal, Federer, or a Djokovic fan?
It's tough. I used to be a Federer fanatic, but learning more about Nadal made me sort of a Federer-Nadal fan. I love Federer's style. He's super classy, very smart. I love Nadal's tenacity. He's relentless on the court. And Djokovic, while he's not my favorite player, I do admire his ambition and fight. Obviously, he's at a tie with Federer and Nadal at 20 Grand Slams and may win this year's US Open. So I have a lot of respect for him. But I would say my two favorites are Federer and Nadal.
All right, fair enough. Fahoum, if I was playing tennis with you, what's the shot that I should be worried the most about?
What's the shot you must be worried about? It's interesting because I never had one very significant tool that is way better than my other tools. It's pretty even out, which I think is what makes my play dangerous, is that you can't really tell which side is better than the other,
Okay.
so you conceal it.
Okay, good to know.
Yep.
And why public relations, Fahoum? What made you interested in studying that when you were at Quinnipiac?
First, I was a marketing major. Then I was interested more in the relationship rather than the product. I wanted to know how to build and maintain the mutually beneficial relationships between peace-promoting organizations and the publics on whom their success or failure depends.
And do you feel like what you learned in the classroom in public relations really helped you in terms of your career?
Absolutely. I mean, that helped me when I worked in nonprofit development, in what I do today. Relationships is everything between organizations, other organizations, or people. I think that the experience overall at Quinnipiac, both in the classroom and on the tennis court, had a spillover effect to what I did next. I played on the tennis team, and even though me and I and my teammates were from different backgrounds, nationalities, and had different stories, at the end of the day, we were the Quinnipiac Bobcats. So the experience made me ask myself, what is it about this superordinate identity that builds positive relationships between people, between communities? And that's what I decided to explore after graduation.
Yeah, I really think that communications and learning how to communicate effectively, whatever the story is a skill that everybody needs to know, and it can be used in any type of job. And I think you're exhibiting that with your job right now.
Thanks, Chris. I agree, it's very important. And it's a skill that you have to continue and polish. It's a never-ending process, and you just have to enjoy it.
All right, Fahoum, we're going to wrap up real quick. Here's the segment of the show where I'm going to ask you an either-or question, and I want your answer. It's kind of where we get to know our guests a little bit more up close and personal.
All right.
Hamburgers or hot dogs?
Hamburgers.
And what do you take on your hamburger?
Cheese, lettuce, tomato, maybe if I'm fancy that day, maybe a little aioli sauce, but ketchup and mustards would do just fine.
All right. Spring or fall?
Spring. My birthday is in April, so it's sort of a build-up to the summer. I love both, but spring is my favorite.
All right. Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate, definitely. If I can, dark one.
And what type of chocolate are we talking about? Candy bars, ice cream, everything?
Ice cream for sure.
Okay.
I'm notorious for late night ice creams.
All right. Mornings or nights?
Mornings, definitely. That's where I have my most energy. That's when I chose to take all my classes. 8 a.m. classes, way better than 6 p.m. classes, for sure.
All right. Steak or seafood?
Love seafood, but steak is the favorite.
Okay, and how do you take your steak?
Medium.
All right. Sally's or Pepe's?
Sally's or Pepe's? Wow, that is tough. Sally's.
All right. And what pizza at Sally's do you prefer?
Pepperoni. I like to get it, classic.
All right. Dogs or cats?
Dogs. I have a dog of my own. He's a pug. His name is Percy, even though we give him 100 names. But I'm a dog fan.
Very nice. All right, Fahoum, here's the last question. It's probably the most difficult question of all.
Sure.
Yankees or Red Sox?
Oh, that is tough. That is tough. Red Sox.
That's the answer. That is the only acceptable answer.
I'm glad. Yes. Go Red Sox.
All right, I would like to thank my guest, Fahoum for joining us today on Connect with Chris. And please be sure to tune into our podcast, Uncommon Grounds, where I talk to students here at the School of Communications. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you, Chris.